Hi everyone. Today we will be briefly looking at your novel for this term. And your novel is The Secret Garden by Frances Hodgson Burnett. So let's have a look. Before we start, let's learn a little bit about the author, Frances. So Frances Hodgson Burnett was a British-American novelist and playwright, and she was born on November the 24th, 1849. She is best known for writing children's novels, and particularly this novel we'll be looking at, The Secret Garden. She began writing as a teenager to help support her family, and she had to leave England for America to do so, but as she began writing new stories, they were quickly published in a local magazine, and from then she was able to earn an income. And she wrote a total of 55 titles in her life. So, let's have a look now at chapters 1 to 3. Mistress Mary quite contrary. So Mary Lennox is the main character of this novel, and she was born in India to a busy father and a party-loving mother. But one day, a terrible bout of cholera strikes the house, and her parents pass away from cholera. So Mary herself, she's selfish, she's spoiled, and she's highly disliked. And what happens is a colonel takes pity on her and sends her to her uncle, Archibald Craven. And Mr. Craven is a widower hunchback who lives in a manor in London. So what we have here is Mary, and she's in the gardens of Archibald's house. Okay, so in chapters 4 to 6, we've got the cry in the corridor. So it says here, Mary dislikes everything about the place. And Martha, a servant, mentions that Mr. Craven had a garden that was locked to everyone since the death of his wife, which piques Mary's interest. So Mary begins to explore the manor's gardens. She bumps into Ben Weatherstaff, who is over here, who's a gardener, and also a red-breasted robin, who is this little birdie over here. Her attitude improves as she talks to Ben, Martha, and the robin. So as Mary listens to the wind buffet the manor, she realizes that she also hears soft crying, and this relates to the cry in the corridor. Crying that supposedly cannot be heard by Martha. One rainy day, Mary decides she will explore the manor's 100 locked doors and hears the crying again, only to be dragged back to her nursery by the housekeeper, Mrs. Medlock. So, in chapters 4 to 6, Mary over here hears a cry, which is a bit strange. In chapters 7 to 9, we've got the robin who showed the way. So what happens is Mary returns to the garden and she finds the robin that we saw previously. The robin leads her to find the old key buried in the ground. The robin guides her towards the hidden door, and Mary finds herself in the secret garden using the old key to open the hidden door. So as you can see in the drawing, here we've got a door, and this door needed the old key that the robin led her to open it. And this here is the secret garden. So, moving on, might I have a bit of earth? So the garden is overgrown and dying. Clearly it is, because it was locked away for many years, and Mary decides to save it. Martha sends Dickon, her 12-year-old younger brother, to buy the tools and seeds Mary requests. Mary takes a liking to Dickon, and they work together to liven up the garden. So Dickon notes quite curiously that someone must have been cleaning up the garden recently, despite the locked door and buried key. When Mary's uncle finally calls for her, Mary gathers the courage to ask if she may be allowed to make things grow on the manor's ground, and he agrees. So what we see here is Mary and Dickon, and you can see that they want to rejuvenate all the plants in the garden. And you can see that there's a fence or a brick wall going across the whole garden, keeping it locked in. So that is why she asks her uncle if she can grow things. Okay. Chapters 13 and 15. I am Colin. Mary awakens on another rainy night and hears the mysterious crying again. So remember, previously we had the cry in the corridor. Now we wonder what the crying is. She follows the sound to a hidden room. Inside she finds a sickly boy named Colin. So Colin, the son of Mr. Craven, was hidden away due to his illness that prevents him from walking. Colin is highly reminiscent of Mary before she came to Manor. He is spoilt, self-centered, and hates the Manor. Mary tells Colin about the existence of the secret garden and convinces him to let it remain a secret. Afterwards, Mary visits Colin daily and tells him stories that liven up the boy, who is so convinced he will die from his illness. As the secret garden grows greener in the spring air, Mary and Dickon agree they want to bring Colin to the garden. So what you have here is Colin, who's in bed. He's been in bed all day long, and Mary here has found Colin. Okay. A tantrum. So this is chapters 16 to 18. What we have here is Mary is so excited to work with Dickon on their secret garden, she almost forgets to pay Colin a visit. When she finally arrives in his room, Colin is angry and threatens to ban Dickon from the manor by abusing his power as the inheritor of the manor. However, Mary retaliates furiously and Colin does not get his way for the first time in his life. So we see Mary's patience has run thin and she screams at Colin to stop. Colin comes to realize that his illness is mostly exaggerated hysterics and wishes to go outside. And this is outside for the first time. Colin has never been outside. He's been trapped inside his house for many, many years. Upon Colin's gradual change in demeanour, Mary finally tells Colin she knew the way to the secret garden. Okay, so what we have here is Colin once again sitting down. But next we will find Colin able to be standing and we'll see his improvement in health. Okay. So now we've got chapters 19 to 21. It has come. All the adults of the manor are shocked at Colin's great change in behaviour. Remember, Colin has been inside all his life. It's very weird to see Colin want to get out. After his meeting with Dickon, Colin decides he will see the secret garden for himself. Mary and Dickon help Colin into the garden in a wheelchair. And we can see that's the wheelchair over there. Astonished by the beauty of the garden, Colin decides he no longer wants to be consumed by his illness. Suddenly, Ben Weatherstaff is seen towering over the children on a tall ladder, furious that the children had found their way into the garden. He notes Colin's similarity to his past mother and pityingly calls him a cripple. Colin is so indignant at the gardener's comment, he stands up from his wheelchair tall and straight. He no longer believes he is doomed to be a hunchback. So this here is a very key moment. Colin, who has sat down for the entirety of his life, has never gone out, is suddenly standing up. And of course, this is Ben, this is Mary, and this is Dickon. Okay, chapters 22 to 24, when the sun went down. It is revealed that Ben had occasionally tended to the secret garden in fondness on the memory of Mrs. Crawford. Ben agrees to continue to help keep the garden a secret. Mary notes Colin's similarity to her old self and helps him realize that he is being rude. So what we have are all the children, and what they're doing is they're going to tend to the garden as Ben is. And what we have next is chapters 25 to 27. In the garden. So Colin begins to use his wheelchair less and less and walk more by himself and become stronger. One rainy day, Mary and Colin aren't able to go out. They decide to explore the hundreds of unused rooms in the house. Back in Colin's room, Mary notices that the curtains were usually drawn over the portrait of Colin's mother. Colin believes his mother is happy for his improved health and calls his progress due to magic. Mrs. Sowerby sees Colin and tells him he is just like his mother and the magic Colin has is due to God's working. Mr. Craven returns back to the manor and immediately asks how Colin's been doing. He hears children running around and sees that Colin is among them. Colin brings his father into the secret garden and tells him everything that has happened. With his head held high, Colin gives up his wheelchair so he can walk like any other boy in Yorkshire. So this is a very momentous ending. What has happened is we've got Colin here, who's very sick and stayed in bed, now walking on his 2 feet. And this is his father, Mr. Craven, overlooking Colin. So that was the summary that we have of The Secret Garden. I hope you can now go ahead with this term with a little more understanding of each story of the book. Thank you for listening to this short summary.